Lord, we ask you to give us discernment today. Sharpen our senses so we can use good judgment in our lives. Help us to see properly, assess the positives and negatives in every situation and in every opportunity and decision that we face. Guide us as we make our choices. Help us forgo what is wrong and least helpful. Help us pursue what will bring satisfaction and growth in our lives. Help us to be selective and never impulsive. Develop us in cautious and patient disposition so that we don't make rash decisions and actions. Give us boldness to seize and pursue all opportunities and goals that you've planned for us. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is limited courtesy of the floor. We have nobody to be on the floor tonight, okay? Number 5, Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance in first reading, transfer ordinance number 5.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Good evening, members of council. What you have before you is an ordinance transfer number 5 for the following revisions to the Act 13 budget for reappropriating surplus. Initial for $333,067, a revision to $353,735 for a change of $20,668,000 to pay for some the additional engineering costs for Van Shell and 4th Street Basin and Penn project, resurfacing of the courts and those improvements. Any questions?
Any questions? If there's no questions, take a vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, number 6, Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance transfer ordinance number 6 in first reading.
May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
What you got before you is ordinance number 6. It's the following revisions to the 2023 general fund budget. Moving money from engineering contracted services to engineering support equipment. The initial budget at a contract service of $7,500, revived as $4,900 for a change of $2,600 to move to support equipment to get a computer for the engineering department. Any questions?
Any questions? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Excuse me, did you want to review finance or anything?
Yeah, these were both in finance.
Yeah.
review
They were
and
both in
finance.
finance?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We needed a new computer for a new position.
Yeah,
Or,
the
I mean,
engineer.
Filled,
Yep.
a newly filled position rather. So,
Yeah, it's just new, well, obviously, we got a new city engineer, so he had a computer, needed updated. The files that he utilizes is a lot bigger than some of our normal computers we got, so we have to get him into something new.
that's all.
And no other questions? Okay, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, Mrs. Frank, is number 7.
An ordinance transfer ordinance number 7 in first reading.
Yes, good evening, Vice President Katz, members of council administration. what you have before you is transfer ordinance number 7, reallocating some of the city hall operating funds into to cover Tracy Rash's salary until the end of the year, or time until the end of the year. This was asked, I believe, by President Yoder for us to make a recommendation for her to be here additional days in order to get the 2020 through 2022 budget, or not budget, I'm sorry, audits caught up. And so we had some extra in some of the allocations that we allocated a little high. So we were able to find that money there in the budget. And he asked not to use the legislative contingency. So this was Tracy's recommendation to do, where we had some extra money for her to cover that. And it was reviewed in finance.
Finance, Randy?
Yes, I don't think we have a motion on this.
You
yet.
need a motion.
Motion, please.
So moved.
One of these days, I'm going to get used to this.
Okay,
Okay,
now we can
finance.
talk about it.
Okay, now we can talk.
Yeah, again, this is pretty straightforward. I don't think we had a lot of options here to come up with this money. And this seemed to be a good compromise without, tapping into anything. Taking a big chunk out of somewhere, which we really didn't have available, so.
Any other questions? If not, I do have a question. Mayor, how many hours is Tracy planning on?
I believe
Working.
it's 100 hours is what she talked to President Yoder about.
So 100 hours, in what time frame?
Between now and December 15th, I want to say.
Okay.
So
we're
the
talking-
next month or so.
So she'll be working at least 2 to 3 days a week.
Oh,
then.
yeah.
The reason why I ask this is because I do have questions, okay, from the standpoint of the finance department. I mean, we are paying Tracy a pretty chunk of money here. She gets $150 an hour, which if she works an 8-hour day, that's a $1,200. Now, the question I have is Heather was hired, okay, to do the budget. But when you're going through all the budget things, it seemed like Tracy was doing a lot of the budget. And when Heather was introduced to us, I asked her specifically if she was going to be doing the budget, but she seems to not be part
Oh,
of
no,
this.
she's part of it. Yeah. Her and Tracy are working through, obviously, this is Heather's first go around, but no, she's actively involved. She's working through the whole process right along side by side with Tracy, the whole 9. Yeah.
And, we have to be careful. I mean, with the budget of what's going on, because Heather is getting $95,000 a year. Jamie is getting $78,000 a year. Kristen is getting $48,000 a year. That's $221,000 for next year's budget. And that doesn't include the part-time worker. And this doesn't include, before we had RBT to deal with when we were running the budget and doing everything else, running the city. When you look back, you had 2 people in that office at one point, which were also doing RBT and the city. I'm just concerned of how much and how many people are working in this office at this point. Is this going to be overload?
No, I think what we've been having a conversation the last few years actually is that they were severely understaffed. I think we've talked about it here. And I think the recommendation from council and why we included in the budget this year was to get Jamie's position, get obviously the director of finance, and then Tracy's outsourced. So that's a third party contractor. So no, they're not here this evening, obviously, but Heather and Tracy, they can more than explain that we could probably use another 5 people in there. So there's plenty of work to do. This is, I believe, the reason why this is coming before you is because of all the work that we have to do to get caught up. Tracy, 1 day a week could not, it's not possible with everything that we're doing 2020, 2021 and 2022 audits. We're still obviously working with RVT to get that caught up. That was a question asked of me. I did talk to them. They're going to present the audits to council. They're going to schedule that and do that. So there's still a lot of work to be done. So no, I don't think it's overstaffed. No.
So we're still looking, and RVT is still part of the problem with what we're trying to do here.
For 21 and 22,
Right,
yeah, they were
exactly.
still, yeah, so they're still working through all of that, yeah.
Okay, and as now that they're an authority, there's only the city that they have to worry about and not RVTA.
20 from July 1st of 22 forward, yeah.
Well,
But when
that's what
we're,
I'm saying. Is this going to be overstaffed since you're taking a huge chunk
Yeah.
out of the finance department at this point?
right, and what I'm saying to you, no, I don't think it is.
Well, I think we're going to have to watch it because that's a big chunk of change, you know, for the department. You
But
know,
it's, I mean, Tracy's leaving, so she won't be here. That's a third party contractor, so she's gone. We were asked to find this extra money.
Mhm.
I mean, that was council's request to us. So this is our recommendation. I mean, she's here one day a week. There's no way with the ask that was made last council meeting that she can get that done one day a week.
that we can understand.
Yeah,
Mayor.
so that's why we're here. But I don't, even when Tracy's gone, it'll be Heather, Jamie, and Kristen. Yeah, so that's,
And
they-
which
they-
that's
yeah.
why I'm saying to you, those three people, their salaries come to
Yeah.
$221,000. That's a lot, that's a chunk of change, which I think we're gonna have to watch next year to see. And please be cognizant of that.
yeah, but I don't think for three people, so that averages out to 70,000. I mean, that's not, in this market is not very. I mean, you said Heather's at 95, but the water authority right now is at 110 or 115,000 for their, and they're having trouble filling that. So I mean, we have to be competitive with the labor market. So,
Okay,
yeah,
just be aware.
so,
We,
right.
you know, as well as I do, we're not bringing in enough money to cover all of our bills. So we have to be careful where we're going.
yeah, but we still need competent people in positions. So
Anybody have any, yes, Randy?
Just to to piggyback on that a little bit. I know when I first got on council, you know, we were in a transitionary state then because several people that we had been here for years and did things in each department that they took on things, you know, extra things. And we also had if you wanted to call him director of finance at that time, who split his time with RVT before it was an authority that worked on the finances. But the people that I talked to in our finance department were progressively saying, hey, this is getting more difficult. We need software. We need upgrades. We could use another person, you know, and we didn't address it for years in an effort to keep costs down. But I think we're seeing, like, when an engineer, a longstanding engineer in the city leaves, to replace that person, you're going to pay more. And I think, you know, we do have to watch our dollars and cents, but to stay current in today's environment and with all the complexities of city government have grown immensely just in the time that we've been on council. You know, I think we're right to be watchful of our finances, but I think we do need to do some of these enhancements. You know, hopefully there's a lot of good things going on in the city now, development wise, and that'll give us maybe some of that money that we're going to need to finance these things. But yeah, I like to put a context around it because that way we can reason out why we're doing things and you know, maybe give us some ideas of how to integrate everything so that it is more cost effective, but at the same time, we're taking care of business. So
No, I agree with you because there were problems and we all realize that. when the finance department was two people
Yeah,
and bills weren't getting paid and so on and so forth because they were overwhelmed with everything that was going on.
Mhm.
And I can understand that, but I just want to make sure that we're not going to overextend ourselves.
right.
And that's where I'm coming from. You know, when you look at these numbers, sometimes it's kind of frightening from knowing that you have to pay these bills. And that's where I'm coming from. You know, I just, you know, you cringe at times because
Mhm.
it's, you know what the economy is. Our
Right.
city isn't growing, so it's not really bringing in more of a population.
Right.
And you know, what they did with they looked at what it's going to be down the line, and from 5 years from now, it's even going to be less people in central Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
So, you know, we've got to be careful of where we go
Well,
and not bankrupt ourselves from the standpoint of too many people in too many departments.
And-
Okay, and that's where I'm coming from.
and I think that speaks to another point, which is third-class cities in Pennsylvania are at a distinct disadvantage as far as ways to finance things. And we really need to be more proactive with our state government to help us address those and to have them make some legislative changes to help third-class cities all across Pennsylvania. Even some of the best ones that I've read about, Lancaster and some of the other ones that have high growth, are meeting the same kind of challenges we are and wondering how they're going to make ends meet. So, you know, we need help within our state government to address some of those things so we can be more solvent and still be successful.
I think-
agree.
Mayor Sirachi in Lancaster, when she was president of the Pennsylvania Municipal League. Obviously, I'm vice president now, but we've been lobbying in Harrisburg for that right there. Third-class cities really only have real estate taxes.
Yeah.
We don't have any other options. And I think there's a report, it's called, it's not 1965 anymore. I think you all probably saw that. I think it was the Pennsylvania Economy League that did it. But it addresses that right there, and just how, you know, we need more options. We need updates from the legislature so that third-class cities don't just rely on real estate tax increases. That's all we have at the moment. So anyway.
And
to-
that's
to
why
your point.
I'm frightened when I see
Yeah.
the numbers.
But I mean, as far as our finance office, we do need a finance office. So that's,
Understand.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? If not, Mrs. Frank, take the vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Motion carried. Where are we at here? Mrs. Frank,
Number 8,
item number 8.
an ordinance transfer number 8 in first reading.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
yes, good
Yes,
evening
Mayor.
again, Vice President Katz, members of council administration. What you have before you is transfer ordinance number 8, which this comes from a resolution that you actually passed earlier this year. This was an update from the county with Act 89 funds and then Act 13. So this ordinance just reflects it now in the budget, the resolution that was passed previously. So that now creates in the budget, the Act 13, where these costs will come from. So this was just an update to that. And it was reviewed in finance.
It was reviewed in finance. Randall.
Yes, it was. And just as the mayor explained, we had a transfer into what was it, Act 89, I think.
Mm.
That the county had. And we're actually getting money back, more money back. So, you know, it's a positive.
That's a good-
for us. Yeah.
That's a good positive. Eric, anything? No? Anybody else? Mrs. Frank will take the vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Motion carried. Item number 9, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution awarding the fencing installation for Ways Garden Project.
Hello, Mr. Livermore.
A
So moved.
motion.
I, I'll take a motion, please, and we have one. Second, okay.
Good evening again. What you have in front of you is a resolution awarding the fencing installation at Ways Garden. Obviously, most of you probably are aware that it's kind of already being installed. It's not quite finished yet. They rejected some stuff, so it'll be done here in the next few weeks. This resolution is for $76,874 to do the project. It was first initially awarded to Miller's Fencing for $54,938. In the meantime, on the backside, Ways Garden decided to put the same fence up along the alley by the church behind it, which is an additional change order for $21,936 to bring the total to $76,874. This was reviewed in Public Works. Any questions?
Yes, it was reviewed in Public Works, and this is like the horse before the cart, but that's okay. We knew it was coming. We knew that the bids were out there and everything. It's something that's, was well needed because the old fence that was up was for how many decades, for goodness sakes. And they weren't, it really wasn't a safe fence anymore at all. So I think we're all pleased that this is, coming to fruition at this point.
Yep.
And it's going to look wonderful. It really is. Anyone have any questions? No? If there's no other questions, Mrs. Frank will take the vote.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Bider.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Item 10 on the agenda.
Resolution between the Williamsport Bureau of Police and Vigilant Solutions.
Good evening.
On motion, please. I need a-
So moved.
Second.
Welcome, chief.
Good evening, members of council. So this is a resolution for the Vigilant Solutions license plate reader system. Payment for this has been made through the PCCD grant that Williamsport Bureau of Police was previously awarded. System's going to be installed on 3 of our patrol vehicles to assist officers with the important law enforcement functions such as identifying, locating stolen vehicles, vehicles tied to wanted individuals, Amber Alerts, and et cetera. It's one of the major technological pieces of the awarded grant and covers equipment, installation, training, and associated costs. And these systems are widely used by law enforcement nationwide. So this was reviewed in public safety.
Yes, it was. John, Vince and I kind of. Okay, yes, this sounded really interesting, your excellent explanation of this with 4 cameras per car
Yes.
and how this would read numbers of license plates. I mean, this is really an incredible piece of software. I think it's gonna save a lot of time, as you well said it would. And I don't remember, did we ask when you're gonna get this installed?
We hope to have it installed before year's end, I believe,
Pardon me?
before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year. It's another great tool for the police department. Vince, do you have anything to add?
Not really, no. Like you said, it's a great tool and 4 cameras, 1 on the corner of each cruiser, 3 cruisers. You just think of how many additional eyes that we would have to have, how many additional officers we'd have to have just kind of sitting on the corner, writing down license plates and checking them out just to run them through the NCIC. Is it NCIC?
Through our system.
So this, I think it's great technology. I would like to see it implemented in more of our camera systems throughout the city. Excited to see it.
Does anyone have any other questions? Yes, Eric.
On the logistics of how that system works, is that actually recording that video and sending it back and being stored, or is it just live? It's catching the numbers and then.
I believe it's an OCR. It's an optical character recognition system. It's not doing so much recording as it is reading numbers in the correct sequence and then running it through our system to make sure that those vehicles are not tied to something that would make an officer have pause, obviously.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Bider.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Number 11 on the agenda is accept for filing Veterans Memorial, August 2023. Public safety minutes for 4/11/23 and 6/20/23. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? If not, we'll take the vote.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Number 12, announcements. The next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, December 7th, 2023 at 7 PM. Trade and Transit 2, 144 West Third Street, third floor in Williamsport. Upcoming meetings, Monday, November 13th is 7 PM, the budget session number 1. Wednesday, November 15th, 10 AM, blighted properties, 11:30 AM, Development Authority, 7 PM, the budget session number 2. Tuesday, November 21st, 6:30 PM, Harb. Monday, December 4th, 12 PM, Planning Commission. Tuesday, December 5th, 11:30 AM, Public Safety, 1 PM, Finance, 2:30 Public Works. Wednesday, December 6th, 9 AM, ERC. Thursday, December 7th, 7 PM, City Council meeting. There's nothing else on the agenda. Comments from anyone on City Council? No comments. Okay, any comments from the administration? Any comments from the members of the public? Yes. Name and address, please.
Lisa Fink, 338 Mifflin Place. I'm here representing the Save Williamsport City Hall Group. Very brief here. We're still meeting, exchanging ideas, pursuing solutions, and inquiring about funds. We are still here to help in any way that we can. We want to thank the council for not approving the sale of City Hall and for taking the time to look into all the options. We all look forward to bringing our city government back under one roof to better serve the citizens. Of course, we're hoping that that roof will be the iconic historic City Hall that we currently own. We also wanted to express our concern as we come into the winter months that the heat remains on and the building is maintained and City Hall doesn't sustain any further damage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lisa. Yes. Name and address.
Good evening, Beverly DeSer, Fox Hollow Road. And I'm here to talk about the terrific letter that Suzanne and Mark Winkleman had in the Williamsport Sun Gazette. And the title is Make City Hall Great Again. And I have copies for everybody. I just want to make sure you didn't miss it because this couple's done a lot for Williamsport and in restoration, and they certainly are professionals in the field. So they talk about, I won't read it because it gets too boring, but about how we should look at our building with civic pride. It's a landmark and tourist attraction. And of course, we've all talked about the historic preservation, but it also helps with civic engagement. So it serves as a hub, but it could have public events there. And of course, the iconic architecture. And just the fact that it's there and everybody knows that it's still City Hall, in spite of what the Sun Gazette once captioned it as the former City Hall, but it is our City Hall. So everybody knows where to go when they need something. So at the end of the article, he also talks about great ideas for the future and ways we can envision it. So there's a lot of suggestions. And he says at the end, once we have a vision, we can begin to plan. And when we plan, we will have a clear path forward. Mark and Suzanne Winkleman. So I hope that everybody takes a time to look at the letters.
Thank you. Anyone else? I see no one. News media, I see no one from the news media. I'll call a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We did good.